Good morning, morning has broken, and we are your consecrated hosts.
I'm Jonathan, consecrated by baptism.
Father Jeff, consecrated by holy orders. Good morning.
Good morning. I forgot to check myself today. Hopefully I'm looking okay.
Yes, you look just fine, Jonathan. You got your haircut?
Yeah.
I got my haircut.
Not at the same time or the same place. Well, maybe the same place. Who knows?
Well, I certainly wasn't at the same time.
No.
But sometimes I go into my little tunnel, my zone, and I don't really look around. I figured if I don't see anyone else, they don't see me. That's the way it works, isn't it? Every student practices that in the back of the classroom.
Father Jeff's an ostrich.
Yeah, exactly. Put your head in the sand. So, wasn't that... did you make that pasta?
Well, we just had it yesterday.
I know.
So I did not make it last night for dinner.
I see.
I had because you have to go to
You have to go to
Whole Earth to get the Whole Foods.
No, well, they might have something at Whole Foods.
World Market.
I've never actually looked in a regular grocery store to see if they have some kind of mushroom salsa thing. There might be something in the the Italian aisle. Like sometimes they have like the pesto and the olive tapenade, and so they may have. Who knows? I've never looked. I just know that I have gotten that salsa di tartufata at basically truffle sauce.
Does that keep for a long time?
Oh yeah, in the fridge. Yeah, it's a fungus. I don't know if a fungus can now further.
I mean, that earthy taste lingered.
It did. I mean, that's what makes it. That's why you can do it with, like I said, shiitake mushrooms or some earthy mushroom. But boy, there's something about the truffle that just... And I wouldn't use truffle oil, because truffle oil can sometimes be a little wangy, in the...
You don't want that.
You don't want it. I don't know. It's just, it's not quite the same thing. So, yeah, I had it for supper again last night. It was delicious. The cream kind of gets absorbed a little bit, and it gets to be a little bit more oily pasta, but still tasty and delicious.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with most leftover Italian.
Yeah, we talked about that.
It needs to be fresh.
The pasta soaks up the sauce, and then the next day it's just not quite the same thing. What are you going to do? That's why you make it, you eat it, no leftovers.
You had a lot of...
We did. We had a lot left over, but that's fine. I will work on it through the rest of this week.
All right.
Yeah. So, today, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, these days just, we did something out of the ordinary yesterday, and we normally do that on a Monday. We used to do cooking shows on Mondays.
Yeah.
And then, so now my whole week is thrown off. So, Wednesday the 18th. Any plans for this week?
What is even going on?
There's really nothing. It's kind of the quiet before the storm.
This week?
No, that's next week, John.
That's how my life is just like...
What are we doing? Because we have to work so far ahead in the office, kind of getting things ready for the next week. And
we're already looking at Lent.
Advent is around the corner. Holy moly. Speaking of things coming up, we are doing a Parish Retreat.
Yes.
Coming up in January. It was kind of all highlighted in the last couple masses on the weekends and in the bulletin. How many do we have? We're starting to fill up?
Yeah, we are 20% full.
Oh, okay. So, and that's only like in the first week and a half or 2 weeks
and we haven't
registration.
Pushed too much to get things out there. So if you are looking for a chance to just get away and pray, or if you just want to get closer to God, encounter Christ...
If you've never been on a retreat, this is a great retreat to go on. It's not threatening. It's not frightening. And we're not going to make you, spill your guts and tell your deepest, darkest secrets or anything like that.
You get to sleep in your own bed at night.
You don't have to stay over at some other retreat center or whatnot. So, I think this is a good start if you've never been on a retreat. And if you have been on a retreat before, then this is just a good, kind of brush up. I think everybody should take some kind of retreat or day of recollection every year, even if it's just a day or a half day. But the fact that we're going to do this a few times each year gives people the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and it's just a great reflection to see where you're at in life, see maybe what you can prioritize, and we need that reset.
We do.
That's why we need that day of reflection.
And to answer that question, Quo Vadis, where are you going? You know, we have to be conscious we have to be conscious in answering these things. Where are you going? Yeah.
That almost plays off of our recent run of screw tape letters and everything else there's things happening in life that we either are aware of, something that we're not aware of, and the more aware we are of truly where we are and where we're going.
Don't just skim the surface. Don't just skim the surface. You got to go deep. So this is a good opportunity. So go to our homepage, go to the website. You can click on the retreat button icon thingy, and it will open it up, and you can register right there. It is easy, and it costs nothing.
Costs nothing.
That is the great thing about this. One of the wonderful things, this is another reason to support the Archbishop's annual appeal, because we received a grant from the Archdiocese to put on this retreat this year. Like, they saw we were doing something innovative and wanted to support that for our people. So this is money that is coming right back to us to nourish our own people. So here is one way that you can see those monies at work, that you don't have to pay anything. So all the costs are taken care of, the materials that we use, the food that we will serve.
You get food.
You do get fed. We will feed you deliciously. Maybe not an Italian pasta. Maybe. But it won't be me cooking. Oh my goodness. So yeah, speaking of St. Peter, who's kind of the Quo Vadis, you don't know that story, you'll figure it out. It's on the website.
It is on the website.
Yeah, so you can read more about that. But today is the feast of the dedication of the Roman Basilicas of St. Peter's and St. Paul's. So two of the major churches in Rome. You know, we've been in this dedications. We did the dedication of John Lateran back a ways, a few weeks ago. And now we're doing the feast of the dedication of Peter and Paul.
And this is the big St. Peter's.
This is the Vatican. Yeah, the Vatican Basilica. This is the big St. Peter's and the big St. Paul's. They're both large churches. And they are both built over the tombs of those respective apostles. So St. Peter's is built over the grave of St. Peter, and St. Paul's is built over the grave of St. Paul.
Now, I've never been, I was kind of in Rome. We were going to Spain. We landed in Rome.
Oh.
We had to run around the airport, and then we left Rome to go to Spain. So, technically, I've been in Rome.
You've not been in Rome. You've been an hour outside of Rome.
Okay. Technically, I've been near Rome. But I've never been to Rome.
Right.
So, I know there are some...
Well, save your pennies, Jonathan, because we're going to do this here in one of these years. Start saving those pennies.
Now, are those tombs... Because there's some tombs that are actually like above the ground.
Correct.
Some are in the crypt.
Correct.
Is St. Peter above?
Both of those tombs are built in such a way that they have a confessio, the confession, right in front of the altar. So, if you go into these churches, there's the altar... And the altar has got like the canopy over it, so it really stands out because the churches are huge and the altar would be dwarfed, so they both have these big canopies over them. And the altar in St. Peter's, under that giant canopy. Then in front of the altar is a cutout, and then stairs going down. So you can stand on the main level and then look down into the crypt level. And in the crypt level, behind the wall that you're looking at and down a little bit would be the bones of St. Peter. Okay. So you can, like, the confessio is basically, this is where you come to confess your faith before the apostles Peter and Paul. And St. Paul's is built the same way. So you can come, and his tomb was like recently excavated, like a few years ago. They did something and they excavated or whatever, and like got down to the level of the actual grave of St. Paul, and so it's you can kind of sort of see down.
Interesting.
Yeah,
and so
it's very interesting.
Did they take relics of those saints to put them in the altar? Since every altar traditionally, or
no, they're actually under the altar. So
then they don't need
that. Was the older tradition that you actually build your altar on top of the grave of a saint. And then when you weren't building your altars on top of the grave of the saint, you would place a relic of the saint in your altar to tie back to that older tradition.
Got it.
So I don't know that there's any relics actually in the altar tops of those two basilicas, because the relics are literally under the altars. There may be, who knows? Yeah.
Cool.
So these are two big churches, giant churches, two of the largest in the world. St. Peter's is, you see it on television all the time, the midnight mass, and whenever the Pope does something, it's always at St. Peter's Basilica, 9 times out of 10, and it's quite something. St. Paul's Church is, it's known for, around the top of the church are these giant medallions, and the face of every pope, going back to Peter, is up there in mosaic. Oh. And so you can kind of just see all of the mosaic medallions of the popes, all the way to the current pope, and then there's a spotlight on the current pope. So just in case you didn't know who the current pope was, it's like, nope, this guy. So yeah, in fact, if you go to the Vatican website and you select a pope, those are the medallions that they use as the icons for the Pope's faces.
There's limited space then, or do they have a second row? Or?
No, it's weird because there's all these empty medallions, and I don't know the history of like when that started. If that was done when the Basilica was built, and then they just kept. But if you look around, like there's only so many now in the main aisle where they're coming to the end. But then I think in the next aisle over, there's a whole nother swath of empty medallions.
All you gotta do is turn that light.
That's right.
You're good.
Focus over there now. Yep, exactly. So there it is, St. Peter and St. Paul.
I just realized I gave myself a ton of work to do just right now.
By looking at all these things.
Yeah, we're gonna have to put pictures so people.
Well, you do a good job with that, Jonathan. So all these folks at home can say, "Oh, that's what they're talking about."
It helps so much to have a visual.
It does. It kind of does. I mean, if we're going to have this visual.
You drawing these air pictures of medallions and a little portrait of St. Francis, not St. Francis, Pope Francis.
Get in my head. See what I'm seeing. That's a scary place. Don't go there. Well, Jonathan, we, with our show yesterday, we kind of took a break from our death and dying. I guess on Friday, too. We kind of went off the rails. And yeah.
Oh, Friday show.
It was a mess.
Woo!
We were just all over the place. Well, we're going to get back now to our theme that we were discussing, death and dying, and
so I kind of dressed it for less. There's a lot too much color. But it's
you're black there. Yeah, you're black. So me too. So we talked about the 4 last things: death, judgment, heaven, and hell. And then we were getting into the funeral ritual, and we spoke about the 3 movements of the funeral ritual: the vigil, the funeral mass, the committal, the burial, and then we spent some time talking about cremation.
Yep.
And so if you didn't see any of those, you can go back and kind of catch yourself up. Today I thought we would kind of just take a look at that central part, the funeral mass, and look at the symbols that are used at that.
There's symbols?
Go figure. Catholics using symbols and sacramentals? I can't imagine. So the ritual is very baptismal. I mean, if you were to go to a baptism and you were to go to a funeral, really, aside from the person that we're focusing on, there would be a lot of similarities. I mean, it really is, and it's meant to be that way, because baptism marks the beginning of our Christian life, and the funeral doesn't mark the end of our Christian life, but certainly the end of our Christian life here on earth. The
beginning of our heavenly life.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so there's some beginnings, on both. It's kind of, baptism marks the end of earthly life and the beginning of your spiritual life. And then also the funeral marks the end of your earthly life and the beginning of a spiritual life. So what? They're like the same thing.
Wow.
So you're going to see all of these things that are the same.
It's like it was planned or something.
Go figure. So the first thing that we do is we greet the body at the door. in baptism, the first thing that one does is the minister greets the family and their baby at the door. So in both cases, the minister goes to the door and greets the family and the person that they are bringing with them. So it is, and we're talking about infant baptism here. I suppose because adult baptism kind of usually happens at the Easter Vigil, and that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing. So the funeral and the baptism kind of begin in that same way. You are brought by someone else to the church, and the church comes to you to greet you.
Yeah, it's kind of the presentation.
Kind of, yeah. You could think about it that way. Like Mary and Joseph presented, they came to the temple, and here we are, bringing this one. Then, in the funeral ritual, the priest will sprinkle the body with holy water as a reminder of the baptism that happens. So, especially at the door in a lot of churches, that's where the holy water is anyway, because you cannot enter the church, capital C, you cannot enter the church without passing through the waters of baptism. And so typically, you can't enter little c churches without passing through some kind of holy water font or holy water.
So that's why that's there.
That's why we put it at the doorway there, because you don't go into church until you pass through baptism. So every time you go into church and make the sign of the cross with that baptismal water, it is supposed to remind you to recall your baptism. This is why I'm here, because I've been baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Remember that.
Yeah, make a conscious effort.
What's the sprinkly thing called? It has a fun name.
The aspergillum.
Fun name.
The aspergillum, which is Latin and it means sprinkling. To sprinkle. So we sprinkle.
That's just a fun aside.
Yeah, little thing. It kind of looks like a microphone, but it's not. So we're sprinkling. We sprinkle the body, and the words that the priest says is reminiscent of baptism. That so and so, this person died with Christ in the waters of baptism and rose to new life with Him. May he now share the glory of Christ. And so that's our prayer. Like what was promised at the beginning. We're calling that in, Lord. We're cashing in the coupon that we received years ago. So that's what we do right there at the beginning. Then after baptism, to signify that this little baby, this infant, has been regenerated, cleansed. I'm sure you recall that you show that by putting a little white garment. Did you have a special baptism garment for your kids? I mean, is there some, do you have an heirloom thing, or did you dress them in a white outfit? Do they each have their own? Oh, I should have brought mine. I have my baptismal garment here.
No, for Gemma we had something. Someone giving us something.
Okay.
I'll post a picture, maybe. She looked really cute. I'll post a picture. You're welcome.
Jonathan, you gotta pause this because I'm gonna go get my baptismal garment.
Okay.
Here I go. Jonathan, this is something my mom put together for me and my brother. We each got one. Oh, look at the dust.
Yeah,
it's been up on the cupboard, on the closet. But it's got all... Oh, this is going to be a journey down memory lane, Jonathan. Are you ready for this?
I don't think...
Here we go. All right, so...
Yeah, we don't have anything like this for any of our kids.
Let's see what's in there. Here is the little blanket in which I was baptized. Well, that's a nice little blanket. Look at that.
When was the last time you looked at this?
Did you notice the dust? I don't pull this out a lot. Let's see.
You don't have a reason to pull it out a lot.
I think this might have been...
First Communion?
Oh, I'll bet you this was First Communion. It's a boy's size 8. That was probably my First Communion clothing. Look at that.
The first time you received the Eucharist.
That's something.
That's a cool thing to keep.
These are my little shoes that I think probably took my first steps in. There's my little shoes. Isn't that the cutest thing? And then I know these were the little... This was me, Jonathan, at one point. One of these was the outfit I came home in from the hospital. I don't remember which one, but these were Mom saved little outfits for each of us. It's my little safari shirt. Isn't that the most adorable thing you've ever seen in the world? I don't know how, once again, we're going off the rails. Oh, this looks like this could have been a hospital coming home shirt or a thing, the little onesie thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that cute? This is one of my little blankets. This must have been the blanket that was in the hospital, maybe. Because, they probably just had the generic blue and pink, because who knows what.
That's a lot. They put a lot more effort into those blankets than they do now.
Here is, look at that!
Goodness.
Oh, that's the little swaddling thing. Maybe that was the at-home, the taking home from the hospital.
There's that baby carriage on there.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know what that says. Oh, yeah. Something about home. Something home.
There's some big babies born in that hospital.
So I'll bet you that. Well, it's one of these things then that you pull up. Look at it was elasticy. Yeah, you pull it up or something like that and swaddle. I thought I had a baptismal. Oh no, this must be it. We got it from Schwazer's.
I don't even know what Schwazer's is.
It's a store that doesn't exist anymore. So here's what we actually were going to look for. This was my baptismal garment. So here is my little hat. I had a little hat. And here's my little socks. Aren't those the cutest little things? And here was my little baptism outfit.
Oh, wow.
So there's my little, you can just imagine there with my little feet. And it's styled by the Shepherd. That was the brand. So there's my little baptismal garment. So see, the baptism ritual, the white garment, signifies that you were cleansed and made pure and clean and holy, and that bright white with a little ribbon. I'm sure that was a tie for something. These are oh yeah, it was the other half of my little
yeah,
my little bonnet hat thingy. So there was my baptism garments.
Yeah, we didn't have anything quite like that for my kids.
Some places have, some people, they have the, a long tradition of the baptism garment that everybody in the family has used and been baptized in. I know some places, some women will take their wedding garments and have a baptism garment made out of their wedding dress, so that they, or several of them for each of their kids or whatever, that they kind of have that. And that's such a beautiful tradition, because what else are you going to use the wedding dress for? But then if you use it as a sign of the fruit of your love, wow, that is a beautiful image.
This information would have been great about 6.5 years ago, Father Jeff.
Okay, well, those of you who are young and getting married or having babies, here's some good ideas for you.
Very true.
Very true. So that white garment then is placed on the newly baptized person, and likewise then over the body, over the casket, a white garment is placed over the casket as a remembrance of the white garment that was placed on the body in baptism. Then, after the white garment has been placed on, the sign of the cross. So I guess this happens earlier in the baptismal ritual, but the parents and godparents are asked to trace the sign of the cross on the baby's forehead, like you are claimed for Christ. So once the casket's been sprinkled with holy water and the white baptismal garment is placed on the body, then a cross is placed over the forehead of the person who has died. So on top of the casket, right over their head, as a remembrance of being traced with the sign of the cross, being claimed for Christ.
Wow. We
claim you by the sign of the cross. And then we say something like that in the baptismal ritual, and so there it is once again. And then we go in, we proceed to the altar. And that also happens at baptism, that after the baptism is done, we go from the baptismal font to the altar to pray the Lord's Prayer and to recognize that this now is a child of God, and we give thanks. So we take them up there. And usually the Easter candle will be standing at the front of the church so that the casket can be placed right at the Easter candle. The Easter candle, we did a whole show on the Easter candle.
We did.
The symbol of Jesus resurrected from the dead. So you are going towards the light. Go towards the light. We literally take them towards the light, to the light of Christ. And that baptismal candle was used in baptism. The Easter candle, because you were given a candle.
Yeah. It's in there?
Yeah, but mine...
I think that's the fate of most baptismal
But
candles.
look at this. This is the more distressing part, Jonathan. My baptismal candle was never lighted. Like, receive
Lit?
the light of Christ. Lit, light, I don't know. It's probably both. Receive the light of Christ. I want to know where my light of Christ is. Where did it go? It was probably, Mom was like, nope, you just got to receive the light of Christ. So apparently the candle unlit was the deal back
Maybe there was a burn ban going on.
So,
I
who
don't
knows?
know.
Who knows, Jonathan? Here was my little baby. This was
your hospital bracelet.
My little hospital bracelet from the hospital. I got all kinds of things in here, Jonathan. This was one of my favorite toys. One of my first toys, a little rattle. It's a bunny.
Bunny.
Little bunny. What else is in here, Jonathan? Oh no, this was mine. See how itty bitty it was?
Yeah, so that was your mother's.
This was my mother's. Yeah, so I have both my mom's and mine.
Back before they could just print anything off.
I know, isn't that crazy? And the day you were born.
Oh,
It's
wow.
a little tell a tale book. 25 cents. The day you were born.
We're really doing this right now.
And it's basically just a story
Oh,
about...
I thought it was going to be...
Look at that for a children's book. You've got the in the wombness that's in there. That was back...
that back then.
Yeah, that you were inside and you could hear all of these things, and then you were born, and there you are, and blah blah blah, and look at that, and then dad showed up. Boy, what different times. Jeffrey Scott Losky, born June 10th, 1974, 11 o'clock a.m., 19 inches, 7 pounds, brown hair, grayish blue eyes.
Now you made your mother cry.
Aww. Oh, and then this was many years later. This was my Altar Server Award.
They look the same still.
No, they don't. They were much higher quality back then, let me tell you. So,
Well, I was never an altar server, so... And they didn't do that.
that's all I've got in my little bag of tricks here. But anyway, yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, Jonathan, you should bring in all your stuff.
I don't have any. I have some books and pictures, but...
Well, that's good.
Oh! I need to show you a picture of me when I was 4.5. My son JJ is 4.5.
I've seen that
This is a
picture.
new one.
Oh! You guys look exactly alike.
It is scary.
It is crazy how much he looks like his boy, or how much his boy looks like him. I guess that's the way it goes. It is amazing.
It is.
Twins, really.
This is what he has to look forward to.
Oh, dear Lord. So we were in the middle of a funeral.
At least there's no ones in particular.
Now,
so it's not...
exactly. So the body has been taken forward and now sits at the front right before the altar. Mm-hmm. Interesting thing. Most people, when they are brought into church, are brought feet forward. So that if you were to sit up, you would be in the same position in the church that you occupied in your life. When a priest is brought in for his funeral, he's brought in head first. So if he were to sit up, he would be facing the congregation as opposed to facing the altar.
Interesting.
And so a priest always is, a priest and bishop, their head goes in first, whereas everyone else, the feet go in first.
I can see that.
So it's an interesting, but we do that even at the cemetery, that traditionally in cemeteries, the graves are oriented towards the east, so that if the body were to sit up on the last day, they would be facing the resurrection. They would be facing the coming of Christ from the east. So if you're in a traditionally minded cemetery where these were important things and not just let's see how we can put our roads and
Tetris.
Yeah, exactly. All of the graves would face so that you could sit up and face east. It's pretty. Pay attention when the next time you're in a cemetery.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking of some cemeteries that I know, and that's the way the grave's oriented.
We'll have to look.
That's the way they run. So the body is there. Mass then goes on, and then at the end of Mass. During the final commendation, when we give the soul back to God, we circle the casket with the incense. Mm-hmm. And so we light the perfumed incense, and we incense the body, which was a temple of the Holy Spirit. And I think you brought that up a couple when we were talking about this earlier. Mm-hmm. Just that the dignity of that body, temple
living
of the
tabernacle,
living tabernacle. And we honor that. Like here, let's honor this body that was, held the Holy Spirit within it, and offer that to God. And so it's often one of the most moving parts of a funeral. That the song of farewell, the incensing of the body. It's kind of the last farewell.
It's sad, but it's beautiful.
And then we take it is. And then we take the body in the final procession out with the family gathered with it on the final journey to its place of committal.
And ideally, this is going to happen to all of us.
Yes.
So the whole memento mori, just very much so this is hopefully our end. I mean, this is what that is for all Christians, for all Catholics. We want that proper burial, that proper Mass.
Absolutely. And when you're there, the funeral really becomes, like we talked before, this is the place where we work out this person's salvation. We join with Jesus in bringing this person to new life by saving this person. So it's not a casual thing, not a celebration of life. This is the funeral Mass, whereby someone is redeemed.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And that's why it goes back to baptism. That's when we were redeemed. The promise of salvation is given. And in the funeral, cashing in on that promise of salvation.
Your final mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final earthly mission.
All right, Jonathan. I think that should do it for today.
Yeah, well, we talked about that Easter candle. I think if you don't get started on it pretty soon, Easter's going to be here before you know it.
Easter is not here yet. We got plenty of time.
That's what you say now.
Plenty of time. We got to worry about Advent and Christmas. Thanksgiving first.
Thanksgiving first. We got to give thanks next week.
Not this week, Jonathan. Next week. I think it is the latest Thanksgiving. I mean, Thanksgiving is like a 5-day spectrum. Like from the 22nd to the 26th is when Thanksgiving can fall. And it's on the 26th this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that's the latest it can fall. Because the first was on Sunday, so. Alrighty then, Jonathan. Have yourself a good rest of your day. And we will see you later. Bye-bye.